Hey, welcome to World Entertainment, and we're at episode 6 of Alien Earth. This one, The Fly. We finally get to meet the 5th species, and as I predicted, just by the trailer, they're basically non-existent in the whole episode and literally do nothing. Yeah. What are they? Well, they're weird flyy things that just seem to live in a nest that eat metal and technology. Yeah, that's their big thing, which you only really find out closer to the end. Know what we do find out in this episode? Even the synths and supposedly very, very smart people are also full-on retarded. So it wasn't just the crew on the Maginot, it's literally everybody, because decisions are made in this that are just retarded. Things happen that it's like, wait a minute, that contradicts other things we're being told and stuff. So what's this episode? Because of course this picks up from after the last episode where we were actually moving the story forward, you know, before we had the big flashback to show us everything we already knew, which was the Maginot crew were idiots. We start off with Wendy, of course, talking with baby Xenomorph. Ah, look at the mini cutie little baby Xenomorph. Talking, communicating. They don't even know what they're doing. They're literally just sitting there clicking noises at each other, and it's like, is this a conversation? Does she know what she's saying? Is it a language? What is going on? And they are hinting that it's going to be some sort of language, which does insane damage to the overall franchise, particularly when this is a prequel, because now we're sitting here looking at a world going, so now we're being shown that you knew about these things, you've named these things, you understand the biological innards and stuff of these things, you know how they operate and what they do, you realise they've blood for acid and all that, and now you know they've got a bloody language. That would have been handy information in the movies, wouldn't it? But no. So she's there talking with the baby Xenomorph, which I can't figure out why it just can't escape from this little holding cell thing. By the way, don't bother showing us how they got this thing into a holding cell. Who caught it? Who put it in there? It's in a holding cell in the lab. That's not where it was born. That's not where Wendy first was talking with it. How is it there? Don't know. Don't ask that type of question. But she's on the outside of a door talking with it, but it kind of launches at her a little bit. But she's just sitting there smiling at this thing. While on the other side of the container thing that it's in, there's a window. And the elephant, who's called Kirsch, if I remember properly, him and Joe, the brother, are standing there just observing the Xenomorph and Wendy, and it's like, oh, so you're just letting random people come down here and stare at the thing. Why is Joe permitted to be here looking at this thing? Not just that, but Joe is an absolute window licker in this episode, because talk about Mr. Obvious. Every question he's asking to everybody is basically, hey, any chance you could tell us how the hell do you get off this island? That's literally what he's saying. He's like, hey, so like, out of curiosity, like, how long does Wendy's battery run for? How do you charge them if we were to leave here? You know, it's like, what it if I know a guy who thinks he could get off here, how would he do it? So, you know, I could stop him. Wink, wink. It's like, good God. And he's saying this type of stuff to everyone. Every interaction he's having with someone is him asking dumb questions. Hey, do boats come to this island? How far from the mainland do you think we are? Do you think you could sail there? How do you think you could get a plane here? It's just like, dude, what the fuck? But it gets even worse, because we are told that they've upped security on the island, because the boy genius, boy Cavalier, is going to have the meeting with Yutani and the lawyers to discuss the return of all of Yutani's equipment. And this gets even dumber with this scene. But while they're off there, we are informed that, hey, yeah, they've upped security on the island and stuff like that. which is weird because we don't see any of that, which we'll get to. But there's no alarms on this island, it seems. There's no security walking around. Oh, it's ridiculous. But the meeting with the lawyer and Yutani and Boy Cavalier is retarded. Now, for some reason, Boy Cavalier wears no shoes or socks at all. Even when he travels to, we don't know where or what city they're in, you would assume it's neutral ground, so probably in one of the other corporation places that the two of them could meet. But he walks in there barefoot. He sits down and the lawyer dude is like, okay, so we're all going to be very casual and very respectful and treat this the way it should be, you know, the business meeting, blah, blah, blah. And as he's saying all this, Boy Cavalier just puts his feet up on the table, but he spreads his legs. So he's literally sitting on a chair with his feet up on the table, spread an eagle. And you're like, what in the name of Jesus? So Yutani is trying to explain to the lawyer, yeah, look, our ship came down. It's called the USSA or whatever it is, Maginot. It's a science vessel, deep research vessel, blah, blah, blah. Cavalier tries to interrupt them. The lawyer's like, no, you can't, like, give her chance to speak. And she's like, you know, he's holding our stuff, which is in direct violation of whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then he quips back with, oh yeah, but you've got alien species on it, which is a violation of code thing. And she's like, that's untrue. And he's like, you want to see the pictures? And the dude from Bottom and the young ones is coming over. And he's going to open up the case to show them pictures. And she's like, no, don't do that. And then she's like, explains to the lawyer, yeah, look, there were species. They weren't meant to be brought back to Earth, blah, blah, blah. They were going to go to a research facility. And this is where it gets retarded. Because Boy Cavalier is like, well, your ship crashed in my city, killing thousands of people. I can't remember what he said, a number. I think it was like 6,000 people were killed. And he's like, yeah, you can have your ship back. Because the lawyer's like, are you willing to give them back their stuff? And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely. He goes, you can have your ship back once I can figure out how to remove it from the building without it falling over. So she starts offering money, and she goes to 10 billion in compensation and to get the ship back and all this stuff right now. And he's like, 15. She says 20. He says 25. And she goes, 20 it is. And then he goes, grand, yep, that's all settled, so you can get all your shit back within 6 weeks, because quarantine things that has to go through quarantine, and that takes 6 weeks and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, no, we want it back now. And then says, like, we'll up it to 50 billion. And this is where it gets retarded, like proper retarded, because Boy Cavalier turns around. Now, he possibly said this before they start doing the brokering with the 20 billion and stuff like that. But he flat out says to her, how do you know it wasn't intentional? And then says, maybe someone sabotaged, maybe the captain was drunk, maybe this, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh yeah, we're going to do a full investigation. And all you can think of is, Boy Cavalier literally phoned the ship, which how he knew it was out there is beyond me, because he's only meant to be 23, 24, I think. The ship has been out there for 65 years. How would he know that this ship was out there? How would he know how to get in contact with it? But he did get in contact with it through a video call. How does Yutani not know this? How would they not be recording every single message? How would they not be intercepting these calls? But lo and behold, so he's basically just told her, oh yeah, we crashed it. But he's obviously not saying we crashed it. So it's like, sweet mother of Jesus. But he's like, yeah, you'll get your shit back in 6 weeks, and then we'll hand it back to you. They bugger off. She calls over. Moron's like, hey, what do we do now? And he's like, cause chaos on the island, which is basically set the monsters loose. So she's like, give him the nod, go ahead. Which he knows, and he explains, you know, if there's an asset, but it's not a reliable asset, blah, blah, which is the kid that he's in conversation with. The red-haired girl, well, they have her on a bed. They're talking with her. You see it in the trailer with the weird lights on her face stuff. They're like, okay, so what's happened with her? And they're like, yeah, look, there's trauma. And apparently this kid had trauma before she was put into this body. So it's like, oh, so you took a defective. That's basically the way you have to look at it, is you took a defective and you knew the risk. So what's their plan? How did they get around it? Oh yeah, just wipe her memory. That's what dude from the young ones is like. He's like, alright, just wipe her memory before the tower. And they're like, what do you mean? He's like, just get rid of all her memories, all the data, up to the point of the mission to the tower. So we need them to be perfect. So low sperm count dude, he's like, no, I won't do it. His wife is like, yeah, I'll do it. They fire him. And it's funny because low sperm count is like, you know, this is unethical and shit like this. And you're like, really, you're asking this now? You're starting to ask the questions that you should have been asking at the very start of this whole program of, hey, what's the consequences of doing this and stuff like, no. Now that you want to erase the trauma part of our memory, you're going, that's not right. We can't do that. Not just that, but this is where the science gets really stupid and stuff, because, like, do you not think you're going to wipe the memory of this thing, put it in with the other kids? Do you not think they're going to notice that and kind of think, wait a minute, something's wrong here? You know, you're going to put the idea that, hey, they can control us and wipe our memories to the killer bots. Because that's what they basically are, the undestructible killer bots. It's like, that's a great idea. And do we have to wait long for the resolve of that? No, because they wipe her memory. She wakes up. Wendy's sitting there, and Wendy's like, how do you feel? She's like, great, why? And he goes, it's like, really? Like, last time you were talking about being pregnant. And she's like, what are you talking about? She's like, you were talking about being pregnant? You know, after we came back from the towers, the crash. And that's all resolved right away. She's like, oh, I'm sure you'll get your memories back, and walks up. It's like, wow, you didn't even let that linger. You literally answered that question immediately. It's like, sweet Jesus. By the way, we still haven't seen any security on the now heightened security island, but okay. Joe does get tasked with buggering off out with the two other people who he was brought back to the island with, his security team, who are meant to be search and rescue, and yet they're out there in the piss and rain, wandering around, meant to be like heightened security. They're not security, so you can't really say, well, they're security, you see them. And other than that, it's like, that's three people. And the girl, they're like, I'm assuming she's their boss. She is a fucking idiot. They're like, you know, the monsters are here. And she's like, yeah, but as long as I'm here, I know where they are. It's like, wait, what? And then she immediately cops on, you know, the synthetics couldn't, but she immediately cops on to what Joe was up to, because Joe keeps asking the dumb questions of, hey, do you think boats are here? How far away from mainland do you think we are? Do you think we could get to a boat? How do you think they fly in and out? What do you think the security is like around the harbour? How do you think you could get people off it? It's like, dude, Jesus Christ, why don't you just put a big neon sign above you saying, trying to escape? It's an idiot. Oh my God. But all that's happening, Wendy has a conversation with the nurse bitch, and she's like, hey, you erased her memory, blah, blah, blah. By the way, I'm not Wendy, I'm Macy or Marcy. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ. And now she's like, I don't want to be human because you humans are bad, and blah, blah, blah. It just gets idiotic. We know the little Indian kid is still trying to get someone to get the facehugger. He's trying to get Joe. We know it's not going to be Joe, because that dude is fucking bulletproof for any shit like that. Once low sperm count was fired, we knew it was going to be him. We knew it was him from the trailer, but yeah, we know it's going to be him. All they're doing now is dragging it out to showing us that it's him. But by the way, he was fired. He's given the day to get his shit and get off the island before they trespass him. And all I can think of is, okay, you won't even let Joe leave the island. You've like literally threatened him with, oh yeah, if you leave, like, we're gonna basically destroy you, ruin your life, pretty much all that stuff, because they're convincing you and pretty much telling you, yeah, you can't leave. Yet they fired the guy who actually worked on the project itself, who knows about the species being there, who knows about all the synthetic hybrids, how to use them, how to work them, how to create them. And you're like, you've the day to get off the island? It's like, you're just gonna actually let him leave the fucking island? Great idea, guys. Great idea. So, he is around getting all of his shit together. By the way, he still has access to everything. They have not turned off any of his access. Joe shows up and starts asking him questions. Hey, be honest with me. Is my sister safe here? How not to make things obvious is, okay, there's cameras everywhere. We have to do this quietly and I can show you whether she is or not. No, he directly turns around, looks over his shoulder and looks right down the lens of the camera. Then turns back to Joe and goes, absolutely she's safe. Come here, look. I can show you her vitals and stuff on this computer screen. Right over here. Come here and look at this. And he types in, get her and get the hell out of here as quickly as you can. And he's like, now come over here and check this out. I'll show you other vitals. And types in, this is where it's like, oh my good God. He types in to turn her tracking device off. You can track them. How do you think they do that? Is it complicated? You need to put in a code. You need to actually access something in her. So no. It's an N and a Y code. Sorry, yeah, N and Y. As in, yes or no. So you literally just have to type N for no or Y for yes. It's like, did they watch The Simpsons and remember when Homer just got the little nodding bird just to keep pressing Y? It's like, oh my God, $1 trillion facility that houses synthetics, androids, you name it. Now it's got alien creatures on it, all of this stuff. And you can turn everything on and off with this simple yes or no command. Holy shit. But he presses N. Now, there's something I've skipped over before I got to this point. The science kid, who wants to now be called, what was it, Isaac, wasn't it? He gets a call from Kurt and told, hey, you gotta go to the lab. Take thing with you, even though he goes, oh no, I can do it myself. Go to the lab. You gotta do something for me. He's like, why, what do I have to do? He goes, well, the creatures, they need to be fed and watered. So you go down and just give them their food and water. And you're like, he goes, okay, yep, I can do that, no problem. He buggers off down to the lab. Now, you can just see instant what's going to happen. It's like, oh yeah, here comes some retardation. And oh yeah, so he comes in, happy as Larry. He's doop-a-doop-a-doop. By the way, we've seen the Xenomorph again a couple of times now, and it's bigger. It's not fully grown, but it's bigger. By the way, how still it can't just smash through the glass, even though they tried to say it's reinforced. It's like, it's a Xenomorph. It will still smash through it, but it's there. So he comes in, he gets like balls of hay, and there's little doors on the main doors to each creature. So he opens the first one and feeds Teocellus in the sheep, who, by the way, remember how we said he was a good guy? Pretty sure he still is. But man, I think he's just testing the water to see how retarded people are. And you got to feel for this poor little dude, because he is just surrounded by retards. But he opens the thing, he feeds Teocellus, and it's just sitting there watching. Now we get to get introduced to the flies. So what do the flies eat? Oh, sorry, before he goes to them, he feeds Teocellus. Then he feeds the big ball sack thing, which we still don't see what it does and stuff. Then he goes to the fly, and the little door won't open. So he pulls it, and pulls it fucking off. Does an alarm go off? Like, uh-oh, contain memory? No alarm goes off. What's his plan now? Does he try and put it back on? No. Does he phone security or anything? No. He puts it down and runs over to the computer and opens the fucking door. The main door. to that cell. Goes over because he still doesn't want to panic about, uh-oh, I just ripped this door. No, he still wants to just go in and feed the fucking things. Now, we find out that the things eat technology and metal, because that's what he puts in the tray. He's putting all old pieces of equipment and stuff, wires, cables, and what looks like a couple of lumps of coal, which I was like, okay, unless it's just some sort of ore. Brace yourselves. He opens the door, walks in, but keeps his foot just a little bit to keep the door ajar. He puts the tray down. None of these flies have come out, by the way. It's like they're waiting. They're waiting for their cue. I'm ready for my close-up, because these things have not come out of their big nest yet. As he's putting the tray down, TSLS decides, let's just see how retarded this dude is, and headbutts the glass beside him. He doesn't just jump, he jumps into the fucking cell with these things, and the door closes behind him. TSLS is just sitting there watching, going like, dude, seriously? Now he's kind of like, oh, this is stupid, and I'm trying to get out and I can't. He can't open the door. The flies come out. One fly comes out but vanishes. How does it vanish in a fuck? Either way, he looks up and it's above him. It flies down, lands on his arm, and this weird long tongue thing comes out, and he's like, and then you see two big sacks coming out like a bullfrog, and you instantly know, yeah, this thing's spitting something on him. And sure enough, it spits acid in his face. Half his face melts off. He drops to the floor, and then the flies start ripping his face off, basically eating him. Doesn't an alarm go off during any of this? No. Does anyone notice that this dude has just been attacked and is basically, I'm assuming, dead on the floor? No. Is there a backup file for this guy? No. Well, we don't know. Like, is he dead? Is he not? Could they fix him? Do they just need to take some out of him to have to get back of him? Don't know. They won't answer any of this. More importantly, do we give a shit that this just happened to this guy? No. But that's what happens. Then we go to all the other stuff with Joe and stuff, and meeting arsehole, low sperm count dude and all this stuff. And it's after Joe leaves. This is a good amount of time later. Nobody still has noticed that this kid is on the floor in a cell with the flies. But after he turned off, remember this, he turns off Wendy's tracking by pressing Y. Finally, a little alarm goes off on his computer screen. What's the alarm? Oh, just happens that Melty Face McAdams, his tracking thing has just turned off. Even though he's actually been pretty much, I'm assuming, dead for the past 20 fucking minutes. And it's like, uh-oh. What does he do? He goes running down. Who does he meet? Oh, the Indian kid is there, trying to get in to open the door to bring someone in, but I can't do it. And then Morrow's like, do you want to say goodbye to your mother before I kill her? He's like, oh no, wait. Low sperm count shows up and goes, hey, have you seen such and such? Whatever, Isaac. He's like, no. And he goes, oh, he was in here, I think. He's gone offline. He opens the door, runs in. Bollocks Head runs in after him. It's the most predictable shit anyway. You can see what's coming a mile away. What does this fucking clown do? Well, he sees Isaac in the cell with the thing. He opens the fucking door and opens it wide and then starts trying to pull the body out, looking up at the flies. The flies don't attack again. Flies are just like, no, we read the script, we're not supposed to come out yet. It's like, Jesus Christ, okay. Like, I don't know what he's worried for, by the way. It's like, it clearly doesn't attack humans. It clearly only attacks metal and technology. By the way, now that we see that it eats metal and spits acid to melt said metal and stuff, how is it still trapped in a cell made of metal? Don't know. But as he's pulling out, he's like, hey, whatever the Indian kid is called, give me a hand. But he doesn't. Why? Because he opened the cell right beside it, which is the eggs. And sure enough, which makes no sense, by the way, because you usually have to be standing right beside it. There's glass and doors and everything a good distance away from the eggs to the human. But one of the eggs opens, and sure enough, little Bollocks Head runs off. While all this happening, the Xenomorph is like leaning in, watching, kind of going, hey, what's going on over here? He realizes, uh-oh, the egg is hatched, and I can hear the facehugger running around. He runs over to the door, says to the little Indian kid, hey, open the door. And he's like, sorry, I've got a family. And he's like, what? And then he says back, I got a family too. It's like, no, you don't. You got a low sperm count. You already told us that. Sure enough, facehugger, onto him, eavesdrops. This is where it also gets retarded. So now the kid, by the way, while all this is happening, Curse is watching. He's on the plane thing on the way back to Neverland Island, and he's watching all of this on his screen. So he knows exactly what's happening. The Indian kid comes back into the room. Now remember, at this stage, the door to the flies is wide open because the body now is lying in between the door. So the door is wide open to the flies. The door to the eggs is also wide open. The kid's like, right, how do I get him out here? Looks over. There's a vent in the lab. Not just a vent. A gigantic fucking vent that you could practically stand in. He just goes over, opens that up, and of course, now it's time for the flies to try and come out. He drags the body away, puts the body in. One fly comes out, goes for him, and does nothing because he just closes the vent before that happens. You're like, oh my god. Then we're watching T.S. Ellis just sitting there, staring at everything, staring at the back of the body. And you can just see that thing in the sheep is thinking, oh my god, I'm surrounded by a bunch of window-licking morons. Why in God's name did I try and help them? Yo, Zeno, over there on the other side, I should have let you go mad. This is ridiculous. And then we go back to the plane, and Boy Cavalier is just being weird and turns around and looks at Curse and says, like, hey, is everything okay? He looks up and says, affirmative. Looks back, and that's it. That's the end of the episode. And you're like, oh my god, they're all morons. They're all absolute morons. And this thing is the most predictable shit ever. And T.S. Ellis is the MVP, and he's surrounded by fucking idiots. So, if you've seen this episode, what did you think yourself? Do let us know. And with that, there's only 2 episodes left of this crap. This is insane. But with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. My god, we went on a little bit of a rant on this one. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.